I kissed my wife that morning like always. 3 hours later, the doctor said, "You have gonorrhea." I never cheated. She's the only woman I've ever been with. Then I realized, someone I trusted for 15 years infected me. But that wasn't all she gave me. When I started investigating, I found a secret bank account with $937,000. Then the horrifying audio. "He's too naive, never suspects anything. I've been deceiving him for 15 years. 3 men, 1 day. But a car accident left her in a coma and changed everything. Are my 2 daughters even mine? The DNA results will shock you. But before we continue, write in the comments what you expect from this story and what topic you would like to hear next. We read all your comments and greatly appreciate your feedback. Like this video, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell. This helps our small project grow. Enjoy listening. We're starting. Monday started as usual. I woke up at 6:30, made myself coffee, kissed my wife before leaving, and left the house. Nothing foreshadowed trouble. Although, to be honest, something about her already felt foreign. When I wished her a good day, she turned around with a strange half-smile. Her eyes were empty or, on the contrary, too lively, as if she was holding a secret in her mouth that was about to burst out. But I brushed it off because we had been together for 15 years, because we have 2 daughters, because I was used to trusting. I got to the office in 20 minutes. At 7:45, as always, I left my briefcase by the desk, said a few words to my colleagues, and went to pour myself some coffee. And then everything went to hell. I felt a burning sensation. At first, barely noticeable, but in a matter of seconds, it turned into a hellish pain that took my breath away. I even screamed, something between a roar and a plea. A few seconds later, my boss, David Miller, ran into the bathroom. Seeing my face, he immediately understood something was serious. "Greg, are you okay?" He came closer. "No," I croaked. "I think something's wrong." "Is that discharge?" he asked, looking at the sink. "Yes, Green." Couldn't believe my eyes. It was disgusting. It was scary. David insisted that I go to the clinic immediately. On the way, I wiped my face with my hands, either from sweat or tears. I had never felt so vulnerable before, as if someone had torn a piece out of me. Without warning, without anesthesia. Normally, I would have gone to my doctor, but his office is on the other side of town. I turned into the nearest urgent care. They quickly took tests and sent me to wait. Half an hour passed in a fog. I thought about Sarah, about our girls, about how to explain all this or to whom. Finally, the nurse called out, "Greg Turner." I stood up. Her face was closed off, as if she already knew what she was going to say. Pressure, temperature, pulse. She measured everything silently. Her gaze never met mine. Then the doctor came in. About 60 years old, gray hair, folder in his hands. He sat down and immediately got down to business. "Mr. Turner, you have gonorrhea." The word hung in the air like a cocked gun. I asked again, not because I didn't understand, but because I didn't believe it. "It's sexually transmitted," he continued. "I'll prescribe an antibiotic. Under no circumstances should you have any intimate contact for a week after finishing the course." But I swallowed. "I've only been with one woman in my life, my wife." He looked at me for a long time, then nodded. "Then, most likely, you got it from her." I felt like I heard something collapsing inside me. A huge rumble like in a plane before a crash. And immediately after, silence. Deaf, impenetrable. The silence of betrayal. The doctor said that there would be additional tests, including HIV. And for now, a list of contacts and an urgent message to your spouse. She needs to get tested immediately. I left there a different person. Tears were in my eyes, but I held them back because there was hell ahead, and I was going to go through it. When I got home from the clinic, the house was silent. Even the clock seemed too loud. I sat on the edge of the bed, stared at the floor. Everything inside was shaking. The pain in my lower abdomen had already begun to subside. The pills were working, but the pain in my chest was only increasing. I wanted to blame her, scream, call her right now, demand explanations, but I didn't know how to start the conversation. how to say it. Hi, Sarah. By the way, you didn't happen to sleep with someone besides me? Because I have an infection that only comes from sex. I didn't even know what my voice sounded like when I was angry. I rarely got angry. I was calm, reliable, that kind of guy. What are husbands like who you can rely on? I dialed my father's number. We had never discussed intimate things, but now I needed someone to tell me that I wasn't going crazy. Dad, hi. Are you home? Of course. What happened, son? I fell silent. He understood instantly. Come over, he said. Mom will make coffee. We'll figure it out. 20 minutes later, I was already sitting at their dining table. Everything was as usual. The same table, the same mugs, even the butter in the jar, labeled with a marker, not salted. But I was different. I told them everything, without details, but I conveyed the essence. First, Mom's reaction, tears, then Dad's, silence. And only then his phrase, "Are you absolutely sure it's not you, Greg?" I looked him in the eyes. She's the only woman in my life. Seriously, I had no one before her. He nodded. He needed to hear that. Then get a divorce, he simply said. Don't drag it out. Go straight to the lawyer. Everything inside me contracted. Divorce. This word used to seem foreign. Something from other people's families, other people's troubles, other people's scandals, and now it's mine. Mom took my hand. I'm sorry, honey. I thought she was a good person. We all thought so. I thought so too, I said. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent 15 years with her. I returned home closer to the evening. The girls hadn't arrived yet. I went to the office, opened the drawer with papers, and started collecting documents, as my father had asked. At the same time, I took out her tax returns, the ones she asked me to keep separate. Before, it seemed like a trifle, but she said it was more profitable to file separately, and I didn't object. But now I looked at these papers differently. Over the past 8 years, she had earned almost twice as much as me. Commissions, bonuses, percentages, decent amounts, and less than half of it went into the joint account. I frowned, opened bank statements, found the name of another bank. Not ours. There was a fresh statement in the folder, an account in her name. Balance. $937,000. Almost $1 million. In a separate account that I knew nothing about. I was literally shaking. This isn't just a little bit stashed away. This is a secret life, a secret capital, an escape plan. And most importantly, why? What for? We didn't even argue. I helped with the children, with the house. When she was late, I didn't ask questions. When I went away for training, I stayed with the girls. I trusted her. I looked at the photo on the desk. There are 4 of us. Me, Sarah, and the girls. Smiles from ear to ear. Back then, it seemed real. And now I realized that only I in that photo was truly happy. The phone vibrated. A message from Sarah. Don't wait for me for dinner. Showing a house. I'll be back late. I replied. Okay. Good luck. Without a smiley face. Without love you. The first message in 15 years without that phrase. And I knew she would notice it. In the morning, I got up earlier than usual. I slept badly. Too many questions were spinning in my head. How long has this been going on? Who is he or are they? What else don't I know? I made myself coffee, but I didn't drink it. I just held the mug in my hands, looking out the window. Outside, everything was as usual. The school bus, the neighbor with the dog, someone rushing to work. Everything seemed to be in its place. Only my life was no longer in place. At 9 o'clock, I was at the lawyer's office. My father, as promised, had arranged an appointment with Gina Hopkins, a specialist in family law and a friend from church. Before, I only knew her from Sunday services and baked goods at potlucks. I never thought I would come to her one day. Like this, I was met by her assistant, a young woman with bright nails and a soft smile. She led me to the office. A minute later, Gina entered, confident, composed, but with a human face, without those standard legal masks. Greg, good morning. Sit down. Would you like some coffee? Only if it comes with a double dose of support. I tried to joke. She smiled and nodded to her assistant. When we were alone, I told her everything. About the clinic, the diagnosis, about how the only woman I had been with was my wife, about the secret account and almost $1 million. Gina listened carefully, without interrupting, only making a few notes. The situation is complicated, she finally said. In our state, divorce on the fault of one of the spouses is possible if adultery is proven. But everything depends on the evidence. Your infection is a serious argument, but her lawyer can say that you caught it somewhere else. We will have to prove that you had no other partners. I can take an HIV test, anything, I said. I've never had anyone but her. I understand. Then we need to dig deeper. Are you willing to go for surveillance? I nodded silently. A private investigator. Expensive, but he can bring something that we won't find in the papers. I took out my phone. Back in the spring, she lost her phone, and I installed a tracking program on it. It still works. I opened the application and showed her the address where her phone was at that moment. There she is. Excellent, said Gina. Now I'll pass this information on to my investigator. She called right in front of me, briefly, clearly described the situation. Address, appearance, car, model, license plate. When she finished, she turned to me. Okay, they'll start monitoring today. If there's anything there, we'll find out. I exhaled for the first time all morning. Finally, I wasn't just drowning, I started paddling. What about the children? I asked. How old are they? 14 and 13. Girls, so the court may listen to their opinion, especially if it turns out that the mother led a destructive lifestyle and the father provided stability. You can claim custody. I want them to stay with me, I said firmly. I've been with them all this time. She was increasingly late. She left for weekends, for seminars. I took them to activities, to clubs. I am their home. That's good. You're recording, it's important. Everything that can prove your involvement. Photos, chats, schedules, checks. Everything will go into the case. What's next? We're waiting for the investigator. As soon as there's material, we'll move on. But Greg, don't you dare act on your own. No scenes, scandals, exposures in public. I nodded, but something else was already brewing inside. I don't just want to leave. I want her to understand what she destroyed, so that every goodbye of hers turns into an echo of the pain she caused me and the children. I went outside. The sun was shining in my eyes. There was emptiness in my chest, but it was an emptiness into which the truth was about to pour. The next morning, I woke up to the vibration of the phone. Message from Gina. There's news. I'll call within an hour. You better sit down. I was already sitting at the kitchen table, with a cup of cold coffee and documents scattered like ashes after a fire. I felt that something was approaching after which there would be no turning back. 40 minutes later, she called. Greg, the detective worked on your wife. And yes, we have a lot of material. I fell silent. 3 men, 1 day. Meetings in different parts of the city. There are photos, videos, audio. I advise you not to watch the video. It's one of those things that you can't unsee. But you should listen to the last part of the audio. Send it, I said. My voice was hoarse, as if I had a cold. A minute later, a file with the title Marissa 1740, Motel, appeared in the mail. I put on my headphones, made sure no one was home. I took a deep breath. Click, a man's voice. You're married. Yes, for now. Her voice was familiar, but with an intonation that I had never heard. Moist, pretentiously playful, like cheap actresses in soap operas. Does he know you're here? God, no. He has no idea who he lives with. Too kind, too naive, typical family man. Never even asks questions. And doesn't he deserve honesty? Pause. Then her laughter, the kind that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Honesty, he married me as a virgin. Can you imagine? 23 years old, and I'm his first. He didn't even kiss properly before marriage. I taught him everything, and he still believes that I'm the one. I clenched my fist. My pulse was pounding in my temples. Are they his kids? Maybe, she answered too quickly. It's enough for him to believe they're his. He already fusses over them like a nanny. It's even convenient for me. He takes care of everything while I relax. And how long have you been doing this? All 15 years. And he still hasn't figured it out. Never suspected a thing. He even writes "love you" to me every night. Can you imagine? I stopped the recording. My hands were shaking. This isn't just cheating. This is contempt. This is mockery stretched out over a decade and a half. And all this time, I considered myself a happy husband. At that moment, I stopped doubting. Something clicked in my head. Not anger, no, icy clarity. Everything we had is dead. She finished it herself. I just have to close the coffin. I printed out the photos for shots where she hugs different men, smiles, fixes her hair, kisses. On each one, that same fake laughter that I heard in the audio file. In the evening, the girls came home. Usually they came at 6 o'clock, but I already heard the gate opening. I met them at the door. They were smiling, and that's the only thing that warmed my heart that day. "Dad, are you sick?" asked the younger one, Jessica. "You're so sad." I hugged them both. "Girls, I need you to pack your things for a couple of days. You're going to Grandma and Grandpa's." "Are we moving?" "Not yet. We just need some time to figure things out. I'll explain later." "Okay." They looked at me anxiously, but obeyed. Half an hour later, we were already driving to my parents'. I was silent in the car. I had a flash drive with the audio in my pocket. I felt like a traitor, even though I was the one who had been betrayed. But now it was my turn to make a move. Cold, calculating, honest. I said goodbye to the girls, promised to visit tomorrow, and went home, sat in the dark and waited. Waited for her to come back to finally put the evidence on the table and put an end to everything. I sat in the kitchen for 3 hours. The photos were neatly arranged on the table. Next to them was her ring, which I had removed from our wedding album. I wanted her to see everything at once, without words, to feel what it's like when the floor collapses beneath you. She was supposed to be home at 8. At 9, I wrote, "Where are you?" There was no reply. At 10 o'clock, I called, no answer. Then voicemail. At 11 o'clock, silence again. By midnight, I started to worry for real. I tried to convince myself that she had just run away, gone to one of her lovers, realizing that the end was near. But my anxiety grew. Something inhuman, animal, as if I felt something completely different had happened. At 0:42, the home phone rang. I picked up the phone instantly. "Greg Turner." A woman's voice, official. "This is Mercy Hospital. Your wife, Sarah Turner, was brought to us after a car accident. We ask you to come urgently." I went numb and barely managed to say, "Is she alive?" "Alive, but in serious condition. The doctor will give you the details." I dropped the phone, grabbed my jacket, and flew out of the house. The road to the hospital was like a fog. My heart was beating so hard that it was ringing in my ears. I was met by a duty police officer. "Mr. Turner, your wife was in an accident at the intersection. A drunk driver crashed into her. The left side is completely crushed. Honestly, it's amazing that she survived at all." Then the doctor approached. I could barely stand on my feet. "Your wife has multiple fractures, a brain contusion, internal bleeding. We put her in a medically induced coma. This will give her body a chance to recover." I nodded, unable to speak. "There's one more thing," he said more quietly. "We did a standard blood test. There is a suspicion of HIV. We sent the blood for a confirmation test. You need to get tested too. As soon as possible." I felt like I was falling underground. HIV. Now I heard it not from television, but from the doctor next to the body of my wife, whom I wanted to kick out. And now I didn't know if she would survive at all. "I was already getting treatment for gonorrhea," I squeezed out. "All the more there is a threat. Get your blood tested as soon as possible. This is important." I was led to the intensive care unit. Silence reigned in the ward, broken only by the steady hum of the machines. She lay pale, wrapped in bandages with IVs and a cast on her leg. So small, so foreign. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just stood and watched. Then I took out the envelope from my pocket. Inside were 4 photos. On each one, her smile, which I could no longer distinguish from lies. I put our wedding ring there too. Signed to Sarah. Please, I said to the nurse. When she wakes up, give this to her. She nodded, looking at me sympathetically. I went to the bed, took the ring off her finger. It slipped off easily. I put it next to the envelope, then leaned over and whispered, "Goodbye, Sarah. You have nothing more to expect from me." Leaving, I felt the heaviness in my chest disappear. Not all of it, but the part that held me on the hook of her promises disappeared. I left the ward a different person, no longer a husband, no longer a victim. It was already getting light outside. I took out my phone and dialed a number. "Hello, Gina. Greg, she's in a coma. And we have a suspicion of HIV. God, it's time to file for divorce. Do everything you need to and find her a place to live. She's not coming home anymore." 2 days after the accident, I received a letter from the laboratory. The HIV test was negative. It's amazing how one word can teach you to breathe again. I looked at the paper for a long time, not believing my eyes, and for the first time in many days, I allowed myself to close my eyes without horror. Almost at the same time, the DNA test results for the daughters came. I wasn't going to doubt it, but Gina insisted that it's better to have everything documented in court. Lisa and Jessica are 100% mine. I held these papers in my hands with such tenderness, as if they were their first photos. With the same composure, I got into the car, went to the bank, and withdrew money from our joint account. Exactly half. I set aside the other half for her. Only not in our house. I found her a small apartment near the hospital. Paid everything for 2 months in advance and collected her personal belongings, which I and Sarah's sister, Loretta, collected and moved there. Sarah woke up after 10 days. The nurse called and said that she was conscious, oriented, and could talk. I took a folder with documents, divorce papers, and went to the ward. Loretta went with me, not so much for Sarah's sake, but so that I wouldn't be there alone. When we entered, she immediately understood why I had come. Her eyes darted between me and the envelope I was holding in my hands. "Greg," she tried to say something. I put the documents on her lap. "This is a divorce. Sign it when you can. You will have the apartment, part of the account, car insurance. Everything is fair." She looked at the papers, then at me. "I knew you would find out everything. I just didn't think it would be so soon. And I didn't think you would start a new life while the old one was still breathing," I replied calmly. "And the girls already know. They now live with my parents. They don't want to see you, and I'm not insisting. If they want to, they'll decide when and how themselves." She nodded, her lips trembling. "I'm sorry." "Don't," I interrupted. "It doesn't matter anymore." Loretta looked at her sister coldly. When she tried to take her hand, she pulled her hand away. "You betrayed not only him, you betrayed me, the children, and yourself." I left the ward first. In the corridor, I exhaled, as if I had dropped the armor that I had worn for too long. 3 months later, everything was official. I became a free man. The HIV test was confirmed negative for both me and her. We put an end to it, not with a scream, but with silence. Life began to level out. I started working again. The girls came home. We had movie nights, cooked dinner together, lived for real. And then, as it usually happens, someone new appeared. Her name was Robin, a widow with a teenage daughter. We met in the church cafeteria. She brought me a casserole just as a sign of support. We started talking, then again, and then I invited her to dinner. I was cautious, scared, but next to her I didn't have to be perfect. It was enough to be myself. That evening, when I was driving her home, she smiled. "You know, Greg, you're like a person who has been torn apart." But he put himself back together, even stronger than before. For the first time in a long time, I smiled for real. "I just didn't give up," I replied. "This is how my old life ended. And the new one was just beginning. Not with pathos, not with a salute, but with silence, honesty, and a simple dinner with a woman who looked at me. Not as a fool, but as a person who deserved a second chapter." Thank you for listening to this story to the end. If it touched you, like it and be sure to subscribe to our channel. We publish new stories every day, and each of them may resonate with you. Write in the comments what you felt after this story. Your opinion and your support are important to us. And if you want to listen to more, check out the channel playlist. Perhaps there is already a story there that will touch your heart. See you in the next video. See you soon. Many thanks.